Most people remember Michael Jordan as the greatest basketball player who ever lived. He was. But that isn't why he became immortal. Basketball made Michael Jordan famous. Culture made a mythology. There's a difference. History remembers remarkable people. Mythology transformed them into something every generation inherits. That's what happened to Jordan. His story eventually escaped the game that created it. People who never watched him play still wear his shoes. Children born decades after his final championship still know his name. A silhouette, without a face, without a number, became one of the most recognizable symbols in the world. Very few human beings ever reach that point, because greatness and mythology are not the same thing. Greatness belongs to achievement. Mythology belongs to memory. One is earned. The other is inherited. That's why conversations about Michael Jordan rarely begin with statistics. They begin with stories. The flu game. The last shot. The shrug. You should have seen him. Notice how people describe those moments. Not like box scores. Like legends. The details grow sharper with time. The stakes feel larger. Each generation hands the stories to the next, until the person slowly becomes larger than history itself. That's how mythology survives. Not because everyone was there, because someone always tells the story again, and again, and again. Most athletes are remembered by the people who watch them. Michael Jordan became remembered by people who never did. They didn't inherit the games. They inherited the feeling. The feeling that when the moment became impossible, he somehow became certain. The feeling that pressure wasn't closing in around him. It was revealing who he had been all along. Before the shoes became artifacts. Before the commercials became memory. Before the silhouette became a symbol. There was a human being repeatedly entering moments where failure was possible. That part matters. Because myths often look inevitable after they have already been created. But while they are happening, nothing is guaranteed. A missed shot is still a missed shot. And the body still gets tired. A person still doubts. Mythology begins when time removes uncertainty and leaves only the image of someone overcoming it. That is what memory did to Michael Jordan. It didn't erase the struggle. It transformed the struggle into evidence. Evidence that the impossible had already happened once, and therefore might happen again. There are great athletes, and then there are people who become part of a country's imagination. Michael Jordan crossed that line long before his career ended, because after a while, people stopped watching him simply to see whether he would win. They watched to see what winning looked like. Children didn't count championships. They copied the fadeaway. They stuck out their tongues driving to the basket. They wore oversized shorts, folded their socks, bought the shoes, lowered the imaginary rims, and jumped from imaginary free throw lines. Not because someone instructed them to, because mythology doesn't spread through instruction. It spreads through imagination. Before people can explain what moved them, they copy it. The walk, the posture, the expression, the ritual. That is how culture carries an image from one generation into the next. Jordan became recognizable not only through what he accomplished, but through how completely people wanted to feel what he represented. For a few seconds in the driveway, a child could become him, not literally, but emotionally. The ball left the fingertips, the clock disappeared, and the shot became the shot people had watched on television. That was the power of Jordan. He made excellence feel unreachable and strangely available at the same time. Eventually, Jordan stopped belonging to basketball. He became a language. Even someone who had never watched a complete game understood what someone meant when they said, "Be like Mike." That wasn't merely a marketing campaign anymore. It became cultural shorthand for excellence, for obsession, for preparation, for possibility. His name became something that people used to describe greatness in fields that had nothing to do with basketball. The Michael Jordan of music, the Michael Jordan of business, the Michael Jordan of whatever craft someone had mastered. That's the moment a person becomes something else. Not when everyone knows their name, when people begin using their name to explain the world around them. The shoes made the transformation visible. At first, they were connected to a player. Then they became connected to identity. People wore them who had never played basketball. People collected them who had never seen Chicago Stadium. The object survived because it carried something beyond design. It carried proximity to the myth. A person could not possess Michael Jordan's ability, but they could possess a fragment of the story. The shoe became proof that his influence had escaped the court. Basketball had produced an athlete. Culture had produced an artifact. And once that happened, Jordan no longer needed to be playing for the mythology to continue growing. The game could end. The image could not. There have been players with extraordinary talent, players with extraordinary intelligence, players who changed the game forever. Michael Jordan was all of those things, but that isn't why he became mythology. Myths are not created simply because someone wins. They are created because people begin seeing possibility where they once saw limitation. Jordan did something statistics could never fully explain. He expanded what people believed a human being could become, not only physically, internally. He made preparation visible. He made standards visible. He made the private cost of public excellence feel meaningful. People saw the result, but they also began imagining the work required to produce it. And that changed the lesson. Children didn't grow up wanting 6 championships. Most of them knew they would never play in the NBA. What they inherited was something more portable. The belief that excellence could be pursued without apology. That pressure wasn't something to fear. That preparation mattered. That standards weren't cruel. They were a form of respect. Respect for the game. Respect for the work. Respect for yourself. But mythology carries a complication. Once a person becomes a symbol, the world stops allowing them to remain only human. Their failures become difficult to remember. Their contradictions become inconvenient. Their image begins carrying expectations no person can completely satisfy. The myth becomes cleaner than the life that produced it. And eventually, the person stops belonging entirely to themselves. Jordan became a measuring stick. Every extraordinary player after him entered a conversation they never asked to join. Is he the next Jordan? Could he have beaten Jordan? Is he greater than Jordan? Different eras, different players, the same shadow. That is what mythology does after it has been created. It doesn't merely preserve the past. It reorganizes the future. It changes the standard by which everything afterward is understood. That may be why the arguments never end. People say they're debating basketball, but beneath the statistics, they are defending memory. One generation remembers what it felt like to witness Jordan. Another generation wants the present to belong fully to them. Neither side is only discussing points, championships, or efficiency. They are debating whether inherited mythology should remain more powerful than lived experience. That question has no final answer, because mythology was never built entirely from facts. It was built from what the facts made people feel. And maybe that is the cleanest sign that Jordan became something larger than an athlete. His influence no longer depends on agreement. People can debate his place, question the stories, compare the eras, and the mythology still survives, because even resistance keeps the name alive. Every argument returns to the same reference point. Every attempt to move beyond him first has to pass through him. History remembers records. Culture remembers feelings. Mythology remembers examples. Michael Jordan became all three: a record of achievement, a feeling people still try to describe, an example passed from one generation to another. And maybe that is why Michael Jordan never really retired. The game ended. The uniform was folded away. The arenas found new stars. But somewhere, on a playground, in a driveway, inside an empty gym, or beneath the lights of the largest stage in the world, someone still takes the final shot, holds the follow-through, and imagines the ending before the ball reaches the rim. Not because they watched Michael Jordan, because someone told them what it felt like when he did it, and the story survived long enough to become their memory too. That is the difference between greatness and mythology. Greatness proves what one person accomplished. Mythology changes what everyone afterward believes is possible. And decades later, we are still measuring the distance between the two.